I've been in Gaia from the very beginning, and I'm going to try to present what we do mainly through European Solidarity Corps, and I'm going to share my presentation. Just a second. I guess it's good. Yeah, I realized that this became some kind of a new world, and I call it Universum, because I got used to it now, and that's I maybe became a bit lazy traveling, and that's why I was not so missing residential meetings, and I also didn't have my second coffee. Okay. Just shortly about Gaia. I think it's important to explain the background of our organization. We were founded in 2010, and it was an initiative of several international volunteers and local volunteers that met in a village very close to Pristina, the capital, and the village is called Plemetina, and it's situated just next to the coal power plants. If you've been to Kosovo, then you probably seen this grotesque scene of two big coal power plants that provide electricity to Kosovo unless there is a strong wind, like 2 days ago. And when we went to this village, we faced a lot of very harsh reality of the local community, mainly Roma community that was living next to the power plant, having electricity and water cuts, no public transport, lots of discrimination, and the whole situation made us think about what we could do. And because we were coming from SCI, and I'm going to mention it a little bit later, we decided to create an organization that will become SCI branch, and as such organize more of international exchanges like work camps or long-term volunteering, youth exchanges, and whatever else will be possible. In 4 years, we became recognized as SCI branch for Kosovo. And from 2016, we started with community-based programs. And in each of our programs, we still implement work camps, youth exchanges, and long-term volunteering. As I mentioned, we became SCI, and probably if SCI would not exist, we would not have Gaia Kosovo today. I assume that some of you know about Service Civil International. It's a 101-year-old international organization, peace organization, that was created after the First World War by a Swiss pacifist. He's on the picture on the left, Pierre Ceresole, who attended the Conference of International Fellowship of Reconciliation and realized that it's not enough just to talk about peace building, but that something needs to be done. And already the next year, in 1920, the very first work camp was organized in France, in a village I cannot pronounce. But the village was completely destroyed, and the volunteers came actually to rebuild the village, and the volunteers were from the opposite sides, like the war opponents, from Germany and from France. And back then, work camps were lasting for several months. I think that this first one was 6 or 7 months long, and the volunteers were changing in the shifts. This was somehow the official beginning of international volunteer exchange. The next big work camp was in Switzerland after a big avalanche, and it was used to show a model to alternative service to military service. After that, the next one was in Liechtenstein with 700 volunteers. To me, this seems like this new humanitarian aid possibilities or even volunteering teams, but it looks quite ambitious that almost 100 years ago, they managed to organize such big work camps. And to me also it seems that SCI was much more political back then than nowadays, but that's another topic, because today SCI has, I think 41, we change this number every year, 41 official branches, and I think more than 80 partners all around the world, and exchange is happening to all directions. There is hundreds of work camps every year, lots of long-term volunteering projects, and lots of trainings, seminars, youth exchanges. And still in the core of the movement, we like to call it a movement, there is building peace and promoting the culture of peace through solidarity and international cooperation. So Gaia, because we have this, I even sometimes feel it like a historical burden of being an SCI branch when we think about what they were doing 100 years ago or even 80 years ago during the Civil War in Spain or after the Second World War. Yeah, as SCI, we took part in many and organized many work camps so far. But within ESC project, which used to be EVS, we are active since 2016. It was mentioned that there is this transition from EVS to ESC and Erasmus+. Even at the moment, we have one volunteer who is Erasmus+. From in these 5 years, we hosted around 40 long-term volunteers, not only through EVS and ESC, but also German Weltwärts program and the French Service Civic. And we had 2 group EVS activities, which are now volunteering teams. And as organization, I think we are still growing and learning from this, starting from the accreditation, and when we had 1 volunteer, until having now 3 community-based programs, and in every program 2 or 3, sometimes even 4 international volunteers. And when I think about how we started 5 years ago, and we were every 2 years adapting to some changes, I think maybe it's easier to be a newcomer nowadays than to try to adjust to this EVS, Erasmus+, European Solidarity Corps, and also to question and to adapt to the needs of the program. But since we are SCI, and we actually started as SCI group and became a branch, I see that European Solidarity Corps actually fits much better to what SCI and we've been doing than EVS program as it was. So I see this as a little bit like, not a little bit, a lot like an upgrade in the sense of values and principles of the program. And at the moment, we have 3 community-based programs. We started in 2016 with the program in Gračanica, and I will mention them a little bit later. In the Roma neighborhood, then in Mitrovica, which is a divided city in the north of Kosovo, and in a village, Borovce, where I'm based, in the eastern part of Kosovo. Our programs have common guidelines. We follow the same principles and values, but they are very much adapted to the local reality and needs, including the cultural sensitivity, local problems, and even our experience in that place. So as an example, very concrete example, I'm going to share just a bit about a current project that we are running. It's called Promoting Solidarity and Volunteering. It fits to the topic in Kosovo, and we have three volunteers from France, Celia, Matteo, and Bastian. Bastian he has a new name. He's called Bashkim because local people cannot remember his French name. And they are here with us for a year in these 3 different community-based programs. And the project also includes one complementary activity that will bring, actually it's going to happen in 2 weeks, bringing 3 volunteers together, organizing a workshop, and also participants from three communities, connecting 3 different programs and activities into one. As in all of our projects, an applicant organization is a partner from the program country. It's SCI France. We are cooperating with SCI France for many years now. And they are also the sending or supporting organization for these three. They are dealing with the management of the project. Again, because we are SCI branch, it makes it much easier to have international partners, especially from the program countries with which we can apply for project, because as a partner country, we cannot apply directly. And this is a little bit like a solidarity. They do help us to apply for projects, maybe. So what is happening on the ground? Mitrovica is a specific local community. Probably most of you know, it's a divided city. In the north, it's majority, it's Serbian community, south is Albanian majority, and somewhere in between there are other communities, minority communities. There is very little communication between ethnic groups since the war. And this was the reason why with the local group or volunteers from Mitrovica, we started with the program 2 years ago. Jeremy was an ESC volunteer in Mitrovica at the beginning of the program. And since last year, the volunteers in the local team started the social space for deconstruction, which is situated in the south, with the idea of organizing different events, cultural, environmental, and providing a safe space for people to meet and exchange. But we also organize activities in the north because it's not as easy to bring people across the river from two sides. The wall, the invisible wall, is sometimes too strong. In our project, we planned a lot of the activities, but as you know, COVID made it very complicated and messy. So one of the things that we adjusted is that the volunteer, Celia, was running a reflection podcast, which was tackling very interesting topics, including solidarity, dealing with the past, even permaculture and regenerative agriculture, youth work, and so on. She's going to be here until end of July, I think. Then in Gračanica, where we run the non-formal alternative educational program for Roma kids and youth since 2016, Matteo is supporting the activities that include basic literacy, math skills, helping with the homework, but also other artistic skills. The program used to be more complex before, and we had many challenges due to COVID. We had to close the center several times. The volunteers had to be in isolation for several times. It was very complicated to make it safe, and we were, especially in the beginning, very afraid of bringing the virus to the community, as it's one of the most vulnerable community with really lack of access to healthcare, even hygiene. So together with Sebastian's organization, Roma Versitas, we were organizing some other activities to support local families. And at one point, because it was not allowed and possible to organize physical activities with kids and youth, the volunteers again adjusted and started bringing activities to kids home, so that besides the online school, they can still have some other non-formal or less obligatory activities to do besides hanging on internet, if possible. I also added links, so if you want to learn more. Each program has its own place for posting updates and news in their own way, as they like it. And the third program that we run is completely different. It's in a rural area in a very small community with around 50 people. And we are building an educational center for permaculture and natural building. At the moment, we have 3 long-term volunteers. We also have Erasmus Plus. I will mention them projects that are a little bit on standby and we cannot organize them, but the whole idea of the place is to show and provide examples and tools and inspiration for alternative, sustainable, just and fair living with people and nature. And the volunteers that come here, they are at this phase supporting us in building and developing the place, but also maintaining and improving the relation with the local community. And unlike the other 2 projects, because this one is more, let's say, environmental, we realize that these kind of programs in such types of crises actually make a lot of sense, and that rural lifestyle sometimes has advantages. And I'm gonna try to show you a short video just so that you can see. It's very short, but also to link it to Erasmus Plus. We had three capacity building projects. Permaculture is a path to peace, and we are all made out of mud, focused on, I think Dragan mentioned that maybe the other day, focused on permaculture thinking and tools in youth work and peace building, and the same goes with natural building. And in both projects we had volunteers, Erasmus Plus volunteers, so they're somewhere in between EVS and ESC. And besides having volunteers in the projects, we also have trainings and other capacity building activities, some of them even on improving the volunteering programs by using permaculture thinking or creating standards for volunteering projects in natural building. So just so that you can see a little bit how it looks like.
It's okay.
So permaculture is this ethics-based design system which is based on how natural systems work, and it's about designing healthy human systems both in the garden, in society, and designing our villages and households and community organizations so that they also work healthily like nature.
So this is just a teaser, and there is a longer video about the project. I just wanted to also share that we've been using permaculture for some years in our working, and permaculture, as probably some of you know, is based on ethics, 3 main ethics: people care, earth care, and fair share. And this is very much about solidarity. And I suggest to explore more about that. We discussed the other day, and one of the volunteers really stressed that solidarity is about care. And I'm gonna continue.
Before maybe you continue, because you're at that place, Mira asked where they can visit this in Kosovo. So can you give them some pointers where they can visit you and check this out?
Yeah, but you can always contact us, and all our programs are visitable. In our permaculture place that also will be soon hosting more events is in the eastern part, close to Kamenica or Gilan, like somewhere in the hills. There is no sign, you cannot easily find us, but the best is to get in contact with us.
And here's the website in the chat, so there they can find all the contacts needed.
Yeah,
super.
So I'm gonna continue. Yeah, this is about Jeremy actually, so I'm not going to continue. We started last year with it exactly when the pandemic started, with more intense promotion of the program, because we see it as a great opportunity for young people from Kosovo. And there is this guy who's, you see, Jeremy, who was first service civic in Gračanica, and then he was ESC in Mitrovica, and now he's coordinating sending part for the ESC in Gaia. And I invite you, Jeremy, just in short, if you can share why it makes sense and what also is Solidar in sending young people from Kosovo to other projects abroad.
Yes, of course, I can share a bit. So it's interesting on the personal level. You can see in the picture that I started as a volunteer and I send volunteers. It's because I want other people to get this opportunity, and especially here in Kosovo. And I will go a bit more into that. But Helena talked a lot about those volunteers that come and want to help, be part of this solidarity. But it goes in two ways. We are trying also to send the volunteers from Kosovo to other countries for the same reasons. And the simple fact that I receive a lot of mails from young people who want to help out in another community that they don't really know, somewhere in, I don't know, Germany, Lithuania, sometimes in countries they don't really know much about. It's already a big spirit of solidarity, of wanting to reach out and to do something for a better place somewhere else than in Kosovo. But then they return. Hopefully, sometimes they want to stay long and get married, but most of them, they return. And when they come back to Kosovo, they have changed in many ways. They have learned technical skills. They have learned, to work with kids, to take care of disabled people. They have learned those things that are useful for them, for their careers. But they have also shifted a bit their worldviews. We have the specific situation in Kosovo that mobility is very restrained. It's very hard for young people and any people to move across the borders with the Kosovo passport, even if it's for a few days, even if it's for less than 3 months, like it's easier in other countries of the Balkans. So most of them, they have not seen what is life outside of Kosovo. And the simple fact that we provide this opportunity through ESC to see a bit life elsewhere, but also in a meaningful project where they can help and reach out, they get this sense of solidarity. And when they come back, what I witness is that they still want to take part as a volunteer, not under the frame of ESC, they cannot anymore, but just informally, just helping out their community or trying to reach out to other communities. This is also something I witnessed, which is something they would not have done before this kind of experience. So what I see when we try to see the bigger picture is that when I send someone to Germany, let's say, because I have one in Germany right now, when she will come back, she will also help Kosovo. And someone from Germany who taught something to this person from Kosovo will help Kosovo also in a way. And this is how I see the international solidarity working in this exchange of people, that we send volunteers abroad, we support them in their experience that they're getting. They have wonderful staff there. Most of the time, usually it's very good projects and like they learn a lot. And when they come back, their own community gets something from it. So it's multiple things. And I think I addressed very various things, but the fact that they changed a bit their vision, that they're more willing to take part in solidarity, that they understand a bit more the concept of solidarity, that they're a bit less individualistic is already a big part. But also there is this international aspect of making the European continent a better place, step by step, just by having this network of helping out each other.
I asked our volunteers, current and previous volunteers, what do they think about solidarity? And it was a very useful, if I can call it an exercise for us, because we rarely actually talk about it or try to reflect or analyze. So we tackled some in deeper topics. I'm going to share just the most interesting things. For most of people, when we ask them what is the first thing that comes when people volunteers in our programs, it's community, and they are very much talking about the community, maybe because our programs are really community based. And when we ask them what does it make projects and their volunteering experience solidar, it is again about bringing communities together. It's in the context of Kosovo, which is a specific one. We are still divided on different levels, not everywhere. But it's also about supporting the older generations. So there is a bit of intergenerational exchange or maybe even justice and co-living. And again, it's about the community, but also with other creatures or beings. Not gonna read this, but this is one volunteer's quote, but he emphasized that it's also not just about the working time, but also what happens after the working time and the contact we have again with the community and the way how we support or help them. When we ask our coordinators, because every program has its own coordinator, they gave more concrete examples, which again relate to what the volunteers said. And it is again about living and working together, which is also SCI's way of organizing activities, bringing people from different cultures together, showing that we can live and work in our diversities and even overcome our prejudices. And here there is also a future perspective as well, not just what is happening at the moment. I think this was the Jeremy's sentence that simply by going to a community you don't know and dedicating often a year, it's already a strong act of solidarity. And when we talk about practice, how it looks in practice, and there were many interesting answers, but I could not put everything. It is also about acknowledging that sometimes we need to ask for support and help and even maybe receive solidarity, if I can phrase it like that. It is about fostering a sense of unity in diversity, concrete example, providing educational activities to kids from marginalized communities, and again, thinking about future generations related to climate crisis, I guess. And something that at the end needs a bit more of reflection. And I found it also interesting that one of the volunteers said that sometimes when you want to do good, you actually do wrong. So it depends on the context. It takes time to understand the local cultures and context in which they end up. It's not the same in France and in Kosovo. Many things are very different. Sometimes it takes a year actually to get used to. The culture of individualism, an exclusionist discourse can be fought by the sense of, again, community. Maybe we should include more of nature and environment into the concept of solidarity. One of the volunteers thinks that it's actually very good to confront young people from developed countries with the privileges that they have, especially when they come to Kosovo and you realize that young people from here cannot travel to more than 5 countries without visa, and that there is much less of opportunities in many ways for young people in Kosovo, but also in the Balkans, I would say. And there are different levels. Also direct and indirect ways to express solidarity. Something like a conclusion also comes from the volunteers. It's an answer to injustice. It's not about what we do, but why we do. And that there is too many injustices in the world related to the empathy. And that you can, as a volunteer, feel good about what you do, but sometimes it's just not enough. That volunteering actually makes grassroots change because it's people to people. And I would say that this is why all it makes sense, and there is much more to say and to discuss, but I'm very bad at time management, and maybe some kind of residential event would be good, because then we could talk about this in the evenings with beer, but not in Ramadan.
No, of course not. Good, thank you very much, Helena. I would say that Gaia is pretty like, how do you call this, epitome of solidarity, and that we can really learn a lot from you, and how you transition from EVS to Solidarity Corps, and like you kind of live what you talk, or like you talk what you, how do you call this, how do you say this thing, you
Talk the walk.
talk the walk. Yeah, exactly, talk the walk. And this is a great example of how to do it.